What happened really? I mean,
So
what?
first of all, I want to start by welcoming everybody to this series. Before we sort of get together with our conversation, we're going to have a sofa talk today. So
But Lisa, are you going to put it out live or not?
it's
You want
live.
to? No, you have to click
Do I
that.
have to do another
to,
step?
yeah, you have to click on those 3 dots and then you have to say custom live streaming.
Or
You have to click
3
that.
dots.
That custom live streaming on that. You see that? Streaming, there'll be a streaming option there. Yes, now it goes live. This is what that step is.
Okay, so welcome everybody. I'm still in the learning phase and learning how to do this. So I want to welcome everyone. This live streaming once a month. This is a series called Ordinary People, Extraordinary Voices, because all of us are ordinary people in some ways. But many of us, and I think almost all of us, have an extraordinary voice, a special story. And this series is going to be centered around conflict. Sometimes some people who are in conflict, some people who manage conflict. And today I am so pleased to have as a guest Mediator Vikram. He has a series of YouTube videos. I mean, anything you want to know about mediation, go to Mediator Vikram's website. He will tell you about it. And I'm going to have him introduce himself in his own words. So, Mediator Vikram.
What I did, Lisa?
बहुत खुशी है तो आप यहाँ हैं.
First thing you have to say is today is Holi, so Holi Mubarak.
Yes,
how he's done.
Yes, today is Holi. So Holi is this really, really awesome event in India where you throw colors. It's a homage to spring in a way and to all the different colors. And I have to say, Mediator Vikram came on the day of Holi, such an auspicious day. So it's also, we're also so honored that he came. So
please don't even use the word. Whenever you use the word honored, I'm going to go off this. How can you even say that? Just
Holy
not
Mubarak.
good to say that. Okay, so honored is not a concept at all. You've called me to your living room, and I am the one who's honored to be called. That's what the whole thing is. So that's been nice of you to do that. But introduction, look, what I did was I put out my life on my website, the mediatorvikram.com. I put everything out there, what I do. I said, even you have to answer that question. Let it show, let people see what work that I do there. So that's how it is. So otherwise, look, I'm not good at introduction. So it's simple. A lawyer who's focused on mediation.
Yes, tell us more about you, a little bit more.
This is as much as you'll get to know. A lawyer who's focused on mediation and promoting mediation and having conversations in people's living rooms when they call them, not without them calling him.
But what about the man behind the lawyer? What, we want to know about the man.
That you know, Lisa, that part of it, when I say that, okay, evolution of a mediator is for people 70 plus. So let's tell Khadija about it.
Evolution, but I asked for who you are.
Okay, whenever I find out,
let your hair down.
I tell you, I did for you. This is the first time I've opened them out. Khadija doesn't know that. Khadija, I always tie my hair at the back, but this is I'm letting my hair down for Lisa. So please, that's done. But that, but look, let me tell Khadija about that show. Because why I was saying was Lisa was telling me that I'm going to ask you. A lot of other people also are telling Lisa that finally you've done this kind of thing. But the point is that we talk about ourselves more when we become a little older. So now that evolution of a mediator series I do with people 70 plus, and Lisa has been on that show twice. We had 2 episodes. So that's the time then you talk about a lot of things, because maybe it's a different perspective. Lisa would know better at that age why people talk a little more than others about their life. Not otherwise, I'm saying about their life.
Loves to highlight my age, by the way.
Well, I'm 70 plus. I'm 72. I'll be 73 in May. So it's a blessing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes,
so
we're
basically
the same generation.
So at that age, I think people don't mind talking about those incidents, those experiences in their life, which otherwise people might not do so. So I think that way, that age factor for me has been good for people who've come on the show. So I mean, we've had people talking about a lot. Elisa's been watching them and been part of a lot, most of them. So she knows what all we've heard, like Ken Cloak talking about some basic parts of life which otherwise never get discussed. So that's been something which has been nice. So that's something about, but beyond that, Lisa, no, that's not going to happen. And let me just tell you, I've had the quickest dinner in my life. 5 minutes I got. There was this show that I don't know whether you heard about that, Socrates and mediation, that I was doing
Yes,
today.
yes, I saw you were having a very good conversation earlier.
Yeah, it was wonderful conversation, wonderful conversation. So that finished, and I said, let's rush, eat something, and then come back. So that's the quickest dinner that I've had. I think I must have taken 5-6
You know,
minutes or
since
something.
this is sofa talk, we don't mind if you eat in front of us.
I've kept something here. I've kept something here just in
That's
case.
good,
Yeah, no,
because
no.
we don't want you to go hungry.
Yes.
And I
So
hope
Lisa,
you're getting some special, you know, holy sweets.
that, well, look, Archana's made some muffins, so that's special.
Oh,
So
that's
that's,
good.
but basically Holi is more of a morning thing. So you basically do all that throwing colors if you have to throw color at each other in the morning. Then we had a little get together in our community here. So that's been something which has been going on for years in the community. So what they do is have these flower petals, which people
Mhm.
come there and throw at each other. Just the flower petals. That's it.
No
And
color?
and that little color is put on your forehead. I think that mark is still here.
Ah,
I
you're
think.
doing the
And the-
smudge on the forehead. Okay, you don't do the
yeah.
full color.
I mean, that I think at this age, maybe people stop doing it because we used to go out in the same place, go out, catch people, put all kinds of color on them. So I think, but what I'm noticing now is that the children are not doing that so much outside. We used to
Huh,
be like a whole, everyone got together, got out of the
right.
house and went together all around the colony, which I see not too much of that happening now. I think that's
Hmm.
changed.
That's interesting because in my family and my Indian family, I saw the pictures. Everybody was fully, you know, colored,
Yeah.
still playing Holi, except for maybe a couple of the older people. They only got the forehead, but the rest of them. And that's the one time whenever I went to India that um, after they threw colors all over me, nobody knew I was a foreigner.
Okay.
It's the only
Imagine.
time I blended in.
So imagine that is the good thing about Holi. Everyone is multicolored.
That's right.
Mhm.
That's why it's the whole
So,
festival of color. But the thing is that the way it started, and there is one part. I mean, the place close to Delhi called Mathura, which is
mhm.
where Krishna grew up. So there they have a very different kind of Holi. They even use sticks and all to hit these women, hit these men who come in there. There's some kind of totally different concept of Holi happening
Hmm.
there. So there is some, I mean, I'm not going to be able to tell you exactly what that history behind that is, but it's a very different Holi there.
Hmm.
So interesting,
Hmm.
interesting. That's the good part about India. Every corner you'll have something interesting happening, and we would not know about most of it, although you
So
live all your
you
life
did
here.
your Holi this morning with the community. You threw flower petals and had a little bit. So tell us a little bit more. So what
The thing is that
drives
I tell you
you?
what
What
happens.
drives you? Come on, Vikram. I want to know more about you.
I thought you were going to ask me more about the Holi celebration. No, I tell you the good part is that these are people who, of course, you've known for maybe what more than 40 years, and you still meet them. And I was just talking to someone today, one of those friends, and I was saying maybe we don't even realize our own age because we've known each other since we were kids. So now that you're
Yeah.
sitting together, you're sitting with the same person and you've grown up together. So you don't, I mean, you don't realize that so many years have gone by and your age has gone up so much. You're back at the same level. So
Mhm.
that way, I still feel that I mean, growing up with same people, I think that's a good thing. I mean, I don't have the other option. I don't know the other option, but that is one good thing that you're sitting with those same people and you're having those conversation as if nothing has changed, except that how do other people look at us is a different thing. Maybe we are uncles for other people. We don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, you're like my younger brother, but for somebody else, you're an uncle.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying, that it's just the perception, other people's perception of you, but inside you, you were the same. What has changed inside you? So,
I'm just going to take a minute to introduce Priya. Priya has come. Priya, now this is another
invisible
person.
people. Invisible people. How do you introduce invisible people?
Yeah, Priya, show yourself. Vikram wants
Is
to
there a
see
Priya
you.
there, or someone has just said that let's log in because Lisa said
Priya
you
is
come
a
in?
very, very lovely young woman. She has a little baby though, so she, and I watched her grow up. So this is one lovely, lovely woman who I watched grow up. So I was so excited. And now she does a lot of diversity training. Priya, say hi to Vikram.
Hi, Priya.
So we're
Hi, good
having like a
morning.
sofa talk and informal. So those of you who have, if you're saying, oh, there's no format, there is. We're just being informal. So
Yeah, it's
Yes,
supposed to be
I was
just an
also
informal.
got that 3-month-old and she's asleep right now, but about to wake up.
So basically, Lisa is, of course, started this, but the idea definitely is informal for sure. And she's called me for whatever reason, I don't know, because she felt that she must call me because I call because she comes on my events. But am I really a voice of the voices that she's going to bring in? I don't know. So that we'll get to know.
You are, and you should share, like, why, what stimulated you to start all the conversations that you start in your living?
Look, I'll tell you this evolution. It started the shows that I put out started with evolution of a mediator. The concept being that when you hear around you that we'll make a mediator, it just gets to me. How in a 40-hour factory, you will make a mediator? I mean, come off it. Let's give a mediator a little more than that. So the idea was that people should know about people, what goes into being that person at that point of time when you know the person. Say Ken Cloak, you today talk about him, but what all has he gone through? So there is so much that you need to know. It's because Ken himself says, I went for a lecture about mediation in 2 minutes. I knew my life had changed. It wasn't because the lecture did something to you. It was because you realized something about yourself in that lecture. But that realization was that many years of your going through what you went through. So that is why when he took us through his life and everything that he went through, I mean, growing up on a chicken farm, and that aspect of it, which of course Khadija and Priya should know, that became a common factor. It seemed chicken became a common factor between guests on the show. So everyone had a chicken story.
Find out, do you have any chickens in your background?
Oh, don't ask me that, because there is a story there actually.
Oh, you should tell us the story of your chickens.
No, because actually when I was really young, I said, because you get these little chicklets. Let's call them chicklets. I don't know what other word that's for those chicks, because chicks just doesn't sound good. Call them chicks. It's not a nice thing to say. Chicks is not a word that you would want to use otherwise. So chicklets, let's call them that. So I used to pick them up and just play with them as a little kid. I said, let's keep some. So made this little chicken coop, quite a large one actually. Let's keep them there, but never got to get lots of them there. So because the problem was that most of the time, whenever you went out to buy them, it was in winter, and they could not last the winter. Most of them couldn't last the winter. Maybe because they were not the immunized ones. Maybe the ones in the chicken farm, maybe they do get some vaccinations or other things. This was off the road kind of chicklets. So that, I think that's why it didn't grow. But there is a chicken story. So the chicken coop stayed on our terrace for a long time. Long time. And so how much I had to
did have chickens.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. When I heard him say that, and then I heard other people talk about their chicken story. Oh, so there is something there. We have to get into that. So Khadija will tell us about her chicken story, and Priya will tell us about their chicken story. I'm sure there is something there other than eating it. Yeah.
Yes, I do have a chicken story, but I'm not going to tell it today. And I want to know, like, what was it about, you that made you a natural mediator?
Look, I tell you, the concept of mediator, I think for me, it's a very different thing. I mean, there is a general maybe understanding that people have. It's not, look, first of all, it's not about just, some people feel that you're just being a nice person to get people together. There is more to it than that to be a mediator. And I don't want to say you have to be not a nice person. I'm not saying that, but there is lots more that goes into it. So that aspect of it, I feel, I mean, I'm not saying that what I am or what I do is what everyone does or everyone is. So definitely, there are so many aspects and so many things that people have to do. It's a person to person thing. So I mean, it's just something that you want to do. Maybe how it comes from within. Because I don't have theories about mediation, which I
Mhm.
don't read books. So but when people talk about it, I can now I put there's a word to it or there is a theory behind the same concepts that you grow up with. That's what I'm saying, that these are things within you that all the time either you're reflecting or not, I don't know, it's just inside you. So it's just something that is there. It just I really cannot put it into anything. I can't even say anything on it. It's just you as you go along life, I think. So there's not much. This is like we say in Bollywood, that masala. There's not enough masala, Lisa, in my show.
There is, you're just not letting it down, I think. I think so. What was like the first thing that you feel was your first mediation?
Look, a serious one. I mean, I like there was some. I mean, of course, you do mediations otherwise in your life, but this was this property dispute where I realized I was, of course, I mean, I was on one side of it, and being on that side also, I realized I did not want this to go into. It was a litigation, which had gone to litigation, but being on one side of it also did not want it to go into litigation for too long. So not too at all. And I realized that I really know how to actually make sure that that litigation goes away, because you don't fuel the fire. I realized that, look, I don't like to fuel the fire. So I mean, of course, these are not things which I mean, you're not saying that to yourself at that point of time. It's just you. But that's what the way I was. So in my practice as a lawyer, it was always that. I would tell you, have you heard me? So nothing new that you're going to hear from me. But in an arbitration, I'm a lawyer on one side, and the other side. I mean, imagine the other party. They develop that faith and trust, and they want me to be the mediator in that dispute, not wanting the lawyers to be involved in it. So I don't know, it just comes, it just happens, and you just people, maybe it's people's trust in you. I don't know how it happens, it just happens. So just been doing it as part of my life. It's not that I said today I am going to become a mediator. Like I keep saying, you don't
But
become a
it
mediator.
sounds like, one of the things is your value system of not wanting to fuel it. There was a value there that you held.
Yeah, maybe that's what I'm saying, that this is maybe another than the many years left. So you have to stay in this world for many years, Lisa. We'll talk about it when I'm 70. Then
Oh, you can talk about it now and it'll be deeper and
no, I mean,
richer when you're 70.
no, because I'm telling you that finally it's about the background, the people around you. That's why why am I going into grandparents? What value systems you pick up from there?
Mhm.
And then around
Absolutely.
the family and everything. So all that is part of you. If it's part of you, which today you don't want to really, you know about it, but you don't want to maybe dissect it today. You're still evolving, maybe. So because at that point also you're evolving, not that your evolution has stopped because you came on evolution of a mediator. That evolution doesn't stop, but it's just that these are things, it'll be more enjoyable at that time to dissect it then, because there'll be so much more would have happened, and then you would look back and then you could maybe look at each thing from a different perspective. I don't know what, I just feel that it'll be more enjoyable then, and not to do it today. I feel that it's the story is still going on. Not that the story ends, Lisa. The story doesn't end when you come on evolution of a mediator. So Khadija says, why do people need mediation? That's the best thing. She's in your thought process. They should not need mediation. So that is how it is, Khadija. That's what Lisa also feels, that there should be no mediation required in the world.
Yes,
People
that
should
is
just be
my
able to get
vision,
along with each
is
other.
that we don't need, that we just know how to work with each other to stop mediation, that it spreads so much that everyone knows how to talk to each other better. That's my vision.
Yeah. So Khadija, the background is that I've put out something called Mediation Vision 2026. So
Oh, I think you're kind of, um,
it's echo it's echoing on Khadija's thing. You'll have to just mute her, I think. You'll have to mute her, I think.
yeah, We can't understand you, Khadija. The sound is messed up. Sorry.
No, I wasn't talking. I was just I was getting ready to say something. You know, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, because you're saying that you want us to be in a world where mediation is not needed, that two individuals or several individuals are able to talk to each other directly and, you know, just put whatever the issues are on the table and let's look at how we can work together on all of this. Is that basically what you're saying?
Yes.
Not me, Lisa saying that. Yeah, Lisa
That's
saying
me.
that.
That's my vision. Vikram, you know, he wants mediators to be needed everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, no, because no, actually, what? But you have to give her the background to that. So I think, but you'll have to mute her because that echo, the
Just mute
sound is
yourself
echoing
for a
there.
minute, and then we'll come back and Vikram explain it.
So the background is that I put out something called Mediation Vision 2026, and why 2026 is only because Ken turns 85 in 2026. So I'm taking it from there. So I just put out these various points of discussion, and I then said mediation visionaries, people can put out their vision for mediation. So that is where Lisa comes in and says a vision for mediation is that there is no mediation. So
He didn't want to put mine out.
no, obviously not. The mediation, my vision for mediation. Perfect. I like
told you,
that.
if you're going to
I
have
like
a
that.
vision, you start huge. You start with something that seems impossible, because if you get 10% of that, you've gotten a lot further. So I'm going to just wish that we are all, you know, communicating and we don't need it anymore. And that way our 10% is a lot more.
So that is why it was Vision 2026, not Wishes 2026.
It's not vicious. It's a vision. And my vision for the future is we all learn how to do this so that we're not fighting.
Okay, let's keep it that 2026 is not happening. I know that you're creating these very nice people in the world who are not going to have any issue with each other. They'll handle everything. I know you're creating that whole world and that whole ecosystem. I'm sure you're doing that. It'll all happen. But let me say that is not happening in 2026. Let's just say that. I'm sure it's going to happen.
I do not accept a nay or a no. What I accept is that we're going to make it happen, and we're going to work to make it happen. Right, Khadija? Are you with me?
I'm listening because I'm trying to be, you know, as open-minded and realistic as possible, okay?
Oh, I see. You're with Vikram in the realism.
Look, because we said she heard it right. It was 2026, not 3026. She got it. So basically that it came from there, Khadija. So that was the whole concept that, of course, it's a good thought. It's a good thought. And that's the way, it's the correct approach. And that is what we're trying to do, that we can reach out down to the grassroots level, to the children and everything. But at the same time, I still feel that, okay, let's just say that it's not happening until 2026. That's all. Let's just say that. Not that we don't want it not to happen, but yes. So that was, I put out a lot of points for discussion there. So that is what those discussions is what I'm having now. So one is on heart, soul, and spirituality, because I feel that's an important aspect of mediation. So having discussions on that, that's happening. Today it was philosophy and mediation. So we had Socrates and mediation being discussed. So similarly, I put out a lot of points out there, which I just feel that we should discuss around mediation, which I don't see too many discussions on. Everyone just discusses the process and they get people to talk about the process, and everyone pays a lot of money to hear about the process, which is not going to really help them as much, because every time the process and the people and everything is so unique, according to me, that it's like when you evolve as you go along. So okay, that's another, we don't get into that, Lisa. No, we want a question training, and we're not going to talk about making a mediator. Okay, we don't talk about that.
But let's talk about, what inspired you to talk to all these people.
I'm telling you that this one, I don't really like this concept going around the world about making mediators. I think that this is, I mean, in a way, is it right for you to even tell people that? I mean, do you believe it yourself also that you in 40 hours you will make a mediator? I mean, then forget every other education in the world. Just go out and do this 40-hour thing. Then Lisa's vision is going to be perfectly right. There is no requirement of mediation in 2026 because you will make everyone mediators and you'll put it out there. But so I just think that I just felt that was wrong. I still feel it's wrong. So let's put that out. So that's when that happened. Then in conversation with the beautiful mind, why did that happen? I mean, you know all these stories, but let's put it out. But it's basically because I was talking to someone and I was telling them to try mediation, and they said, "Oh, we've heard about mediation, but we don't know who a mediator is. Now I can put a face to a mediator." I said, "If that's the thing, let's put out mediators. Let's have conversations with mediators. Let people know those people. It's not just about, for me, it's not about just, oh, that's a mediator. No, who's the person? Because it's important. You have a dispute at hand. It's your dispute. It's very close to you. And at that point of time, you're just not going to go out into the market and say, oh, let me get a mediator. You're going to want to know whom you're going to put out a lot of things to. So let's have these conversations. People should know them. Should know the person. So that happened there in Conversation with Beautiful Mind. That was how that happened. Then what else? Then mediator experiences, of course, memorable experiences of mediators. That was because it started with that Jams Fellowship, Weinstein Jams Fellowship, because I said, let's talk to these people about their experience. And I will talk to other mediators about their other memorable experience. But I found out there are about 100 Jams Fellows. Let's cover them. So 22 of those has happened. Then talking books, because some of us don't read them. You can understand. I don't even have to tell you why that happened. So that was because I don't read them. So that's that. So then what else is there? Then there is Mediator Reflects with Michael Lang, because obviously I mean, doing a lot of work on that end. The idea was to get his practice group together and let's have a conversation with them. Let them do what they do in their practice groups. And that was like for the first time he had put it out on YouTube or recorded that session. So that sometimes I don't even remember what the Mediator Lifestyle. I did one episode of that. So I said, let's let mediators take us with. Lisa's also going to be doing something like that, I'm sure. Mediators are going to take us
You've
through
done
some
the
aspect.
international mediators from every region.
Which is
The
that?
international symposium you did in
Oh,
that
yes. Yeah. So that symposium, basically, I was just discussing. Well, like, these are conversations I have with Lisa actually. Sometimes, oh, I'm thinking of doing this. So she's talking to me, and she finds out he's done it. So he's already announced it. So basically, that was a symposium. But and only thing I tell you is very strange looking at pictures and talking to people. But that's Priya, Khadija. Is there any chance that you can put on your videos? So because it'll become, I mean, I'm actually looking at pictures. Okay, so
Yeah,
basically
he
that
wants
symposium,
pictures. He wants to see you. And
some
I think
people, there's only
I
people
open
on
the
that.
floor to you both, but tell me something, Vikram. Talk about this nice pottery behind you and tell us about that.
Oh, so I'm sorry,
You
Lisa.
have to show us the
I
pottery
was,
closer because
I was
every
supposed to put
time.
the, when I was supposed to put the kettle there. Let me put the kettle for you. I wanted to put that there because Lisa has a major kettle connection.
Yeah, I like these though. Tell us about this. I love the pottery. So tell us about the pottery that you have it always behind you.
First the symposium, or first the pottery. What came first? Okay, but the pottery first. Basically, that my wife makes these. So this is her behind me, that kind of thing. So that's how these pot thing, and they keep changing, but now haven't changed for some time. I think now. I was wanting to do it every week, so that's why I'm thinking that the kettle is lying here. Let me put it behind me, so that I've got the two of them lying there. So I want to put them here. So
And
that
that's
was what the
nice. I mean, that you want her behind you. That's so sweet.
no, no, now don't take it as, oh, you want her behind you. Now that interpretation of behind will start.
It's what you said.
She's always behind me, but she's never behind me. That kind of thing.
No, don't say that. She is behind you and
She is behind me,
you
but she's not
support each
behind me.
other.
Yeah, but she's not behind me. So it's just, but it's just nice because the thing is that otherwise it's not personal. I mean, you put things behind you. Of course, it's personal in the sense that painting behind you there's a whole reason behind it, which you're going to tell us about. So obviously there's a story behind everything, but this is like right here, your wife making something, just want it behind you. So that's how it is. So that's the story. But the symposium I didn't finish. So let me tell them, because they don't know
Okay.
about that. So basically, that just idea was, this is mediation in our culture and traditions, and that is important. That whole reason behind it was that this whole technical rocket science concept of mediation, which is spreading and making mediators, and you do this and you do that. When you, this is something, according to me, people have that natural ability, and it is already happening everywhere. So let's connect to our culture and traditions and see what has been happening and is happening around the world on that. A lot of it actually did not, a lot of it came out into the present situation, the legislation and all that. So a lot came out from there, but some people did take us through some very interesting sessions. There were some interesting sessions there. So there were about 100 speakers from more than 40 countries. So that was a very interesting, I mean, just to get to know what is happening in every corner of the world, and how things are so similar for mediators around the world. So every session I would talk to everyone, and of course that aspect of how the court system and mediation in the court system is destroying mediation and mediators, in that sense of them not, it's not really developing the way it should have developed. So all that, criticizing that, that was that was my major work at the end of every session. So that is what that symposium was all about.
So if you were to name 2 or 3 pieces of, that really spoke to you, things that you heard all of these people say, what would be the top 2 or 3 things that really inspired you
I'll tell you, let me start with the
spoke to
people.
you?
Yeah, let me start with the people. I keep saying the last one, number 97, which was from Shadia from Indonesia. The things that she spoke about, that is where the concept of the heart, we were talking about the concept of the heart in mediation. She works in places where there is violence. So in those conflict areas, and here there are people with, I mean, they have guns in their hands, and whoever, whatever you call them, some people will call them terrorists, some people will call them freedom fighters, whatever terminology you want to use for them, that doesn't matter. They are people with guns. And when she's in that concept of that mediation, and how they break down, and how she connects to them at a different level. So those were the things that I work with. That's where the heart, soul, and spirituality, those that discussions came up later on that. So we were discussing that. It's a very interesting session. You must watch that. That's number 97. So all the sessions are lying on YouTube. You can go to my channel. I mean, of course, you can go to mediatorvikram.com. You'll get the entire detail, all the details. There's a whole index of all the people there who came in. So number 97, Shadia, really, I mean, there's obviously, look, all conversations were interesting after the session, and all sessions, I'm not going to say that no session was nice. All the sessions were nice, but this aspect that came out in that was good. Then Christian Chereji from Romania, what he was talking about, his work in Crete with those communities there. So that part of it was also, I think, I felt that was something which a lot of aspects of the traditional part of mediation, obviously we know about how these people who had the social status who were doing it, and those aspects, but I mean, things you generally know, but it's still something which yeah, always nice to hear what their experiences in those parts of the world were. So that was nice. And then this concept that David Shimoni was talking about the traditional mediator and the modern mediator, so-called, whatever modern as way we want to call it. So them getting together and co-mediating, because obviously those traditional mediators, whatever you might, whoever they might be, rabbis or priests or other people in the community, who some people feel tell people what to do. So whether, of course, that is right or not, we'll have to look at circumstances and what that situation was. But the point is that whether you can sensitize them and then make them what you call so-called modern mediators, can you do that aspect, and then can they change their attitude towards mediation as such, or just the fact that whether you want to tell people what to do, because whether that is also the right way to look at it. I mean, telling someone what to do for the peace of a community, for the peace of in the community, and the person accepting it because the person wants to be part of the community, are you really telling them what to do? I mean, in that sense, are you really forcing them to do it? If they have a choice, they have a choice. But if they take that choice, some people look at it and say, look, they were told what to do. No, they took it and they accepted it. And if they wanted things to be peaceful in the community, they accepted it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I keep saying social pressure is not a bad thing. And I think we're moving away from that. And this is where, of course, I had those conversations and I criticized, and maybe you don't like it, but when things come out from the US in terms of mediation, and you come from an individualistic society, and that is the way mediation is pushed in other parts of the world, it is not the, it's not the, maybe sometimes not the correct way of looking at communities, because they have a different way how people look at how they are going to live in a community. So social pressure is not a bad thing if they want to accept, but do they have a choice or not? That's the only thing that you have to ask. Did you have a choice? And then did you accept it? It's not just blanket say, oh, you were told what to do. It's not mediation. No, in that mediation, it's the person could have looked at all the options and just suggested something. Again, this whole okay, Lisa, we won't get into evaluative, facilitative. We won't get into models.
No,
No,
we're not
no, we're
going
not
to
going to
get
get
into
into that.
that discussion. I'm not going there.
But I'm
You're,
just
this
saying that,
was
yeah,
you saying we're just listening to you. I did want to, I know Khadija has some questions, and Khadija will come to those a little later. Maybe,
she doesn't know.
and touch base with those about goals and ground rules and things like
Look,
that. But that's
Khadija, what
like
will
the
happen is,
traditional.
no, Khadija, what will happen is that Lisa is going to get some good people who can give you good answers to your questions. With me, you won't get good answers. You're better off not getting an answer. So, because I'm
He
telling
and
you, I
I
don't
will
get into the,
argue about this point, so it's okay.
no, no, I'm just, what I will let you, I will, she should know, they should know that, look, I don't get into the theory of mediation, because for me, that is something which you are putting words to things that you can put words to. But there is so much more around mediation which you can't put words to. So to say that this is mediation and let's talk about this as mediation, I don't think is correct. And that is where this, again, that heart, soul, and spirituality, the energy levels, what a person, a mediator brings in as an individual, what that whole, the energy in that whole, maybe call it a room or wherever else you do it, what all that is never discussed, because you can't put words to a lot of things. You don't have gauges to gauge all those aspects. So that's why I don't get into the theory part, because it'll be a very limited aspect of mediation which gets discussed.
So,
But
but I
Lisa,
want
you
to
of
go
course,
back to your thing, what you said about the heart mediation, and I want to share with you, Priya is here, and I just want to share something about Priya's grandmother. You should know that she has a very special grandmother who came to this country, I don't know, maybe in the 70s, a long time ago, and she came to work in the prison system in Ohio. And she taught mindfulness meditation in the prison system. She was a prison counselor in the prisons in Ohio. And like, when you talk about that mind connection, she was definitely that mind and heart connection that she brought to here. Priya, can you talk a little bit more about your grandmother? Because she was so special. I don't know if you're here, because I know that she may be taking care of the baby. Okay, so she may not be here, but I wanted to share that with you so that you know, like, that's also, it's an amazing story to me, because who would expect, someone from India to come and work in the prisons in the US? That was amazing. And bring
people are doing
family, the whole family came then.
Well, that's what I'm saying. People are doing interesting work, and I think they're also doing interesting work because they're not putting any boundaries around what should be done, what the way it should be done. They're taking it from the heart, and when you take it from the heart, like Khadija says, are ground rules needed? I mean, what ground rules do you need when you are working from the heart and your soul?
I think that if I had not met Priya's grandmother and her family, I might not have been in this field that I'm in. So that was definitely an inspiration for me.
But let me also, because Khadija also says, can conflicts bring clarity? First of all, let me also, because of course, Lisa has said these are voices in conflict and in the conflict world or whatever. For me, that conflict resolution is for the people like her and all the larger things that you people want to do. For me, it is so specific down to dispute resolution. I just talk about dispute resolution and my dispute resolution revolution, because I just feel that the dispute should be resolved. Now, whether some, of course, some people even say this dispute and conflict are the same thing. Sometimes people say that, definitely not for me. So I'm just saying that let help people resolve the disputes. The larger conflict comes around it, it will happen. Those resolutions will happen. People will learn how to resolve their conflicts also. But are we being able to first resolve the disputes? So that I think is the important part. That is needs to be for me. That needs to be looked at. So that is why the answer to can conflicts bring clarity? Let people answer who want to talk about the conflict part of it. For me, the dispute part of it is what is the important part. Yes.
Hmm?
What do you say?
Well, I'm not going to argue. Remember, you're my guest.
That's it. Right. Is Rami is listening or Rami is listening or not?
No, he's not. We're separate. So we have somebody else, GC. So I'm not sure who GC is. Can you introduce yourself?
It's Gail.
Oh, hi, Gail. How
I'm
are you?
doing well. How are you?
I'm good.
I'm
So nice to see you.
all
So you're
right.
getting a lot of the local people here, Vikram.
Yes. Hi,
This
Gail.
Gail Fowler, and she works with me in environmental, trying to work in environmental justice field. She's an incredible lady.
Hi, Gail.
Hi, good
Mm.
morning.
For me, yeah, that's why I say hi is easier because obviously it's night here.
Yes, true.
So
And
I'm
I
just
was
saying
double
like
checking the time because I didn't know here what time it was.
no, but I think that I started using these neutral greetings much easier because definitely which one are you going to use? We have to decide the one that you are coming from or the one that other person is in. So that we have to decide on that. What should it be, Lisa? Should we greet the person in the time zone that they are on the time zone that you are in?
Maybe, yeah, I don't know. I try to say good evening, good morning, good evening, but she's in the morning with me, so yeah,
Hi
or
is
just
good.
say
Hi.
hi.
Yeah. But Khadija wants to say something.
Yes, Khadija.
Yeah, the reason why I was asking those questions is because people matter. The issues that they bring to me, or the conflicts, or however we want to define it, you know, what they have to say really matters. And I think that that's important to the individuals that we're talking to. So, you know, because I mean, I've been in the field for a long time. I've dealt with a lot of different people. Some things work, some things don't work. You know, to be continued, those types of things. And basically, if you just have a basic love for yourself, love and for other people, and be considerate and kind and caring, you know, that has a lot to do with outcomes, or the direction that that individual wants to go in as a result of the mediation.
But the thing is, Khadija, how I look at it is always is that just be yourself. Don't I mean the thinking about it because it'll come like if it comes from the heart or wherever it comes from. Let it come from wherever it is. To even having to think about it and what like I said, the theory part of it, it won't work in that moment at all. So what you have inside you, the kind of person you are, the way you think, it's all inside you. And I have to keep repeating that concept that I say, look, you have this quantum computer inside. It will give you that output in that moment. You don't have to think about it. It'll happen. It's all inside you. So to even think that you need theory and you have time to even consider theory when you are dealing with people and their emotions and all, I mean that's the thing I talk about. It's a little, I mean, I don't know whether that really answers what you're saying, but
No, I understand what you're saying. You know, it's just that, you know, I just wanted you to understand why I was asking those questions, because this is my first time here and I'm just trying to get a feel for and stay in what we're talking about now.
this is the first time for all of us because this is
Yeah.
the
This is
first
my first
episode.
one.
And
Okay.
because that look, the way I do it, and that's, I don't know what Lisa's format is going to be. When I do it, it is just let conversations flow. There is not like, it's not like an interview. It's just where it goes from there. We also don't know, so there are no questions as such that you think about. It just kind of flows from there. But Lisa obviously is considering that there should be some direction to it, which I don't obviously have in my conversations. It just goes where it goes. But no. But otherwise, but did you heard that Socrates and mediation? You heard some part of that?
I heard part of it. I didn't have enough time though. I was preparing for this. So I'll go back and listen to it later. But
Interesting. That Federico was really interesting. I mean, really had some interesting thoughts on that. It was very nice.
one of the things you talk a lot about, Vikram, is decolonizing mediation. So I don't know if that's something you want to talk about here or not, or what does that mean? What is it
Look, you have to
exactly?
first of all decolonizing dispute resolution. First of all, this whole concept that dispute resolution happens in courts and lawyers have to be involved in it. This is a colonization mindset, and that needs to be broken at some point of time. You can't go on for hundreds of years with that same thought process. And it is where people are so conditioned with it that that's the first thing that comes in their mind. So we have to decolonize that part, that you can actually resolve your dispute yourself, within yourselves. That was not what the colonizer wanted. The colonizer wanted to be there somewhere in between, to be the person who can actually be resolving your dispute. Sarkar is what the Hindi word they use sarkar as. That sarkar did everything. So you had to come to the sarkar for everything. So that part of it, I'm telling you, is deeply ingrained in colonies. And that is really affecting, I'm saying, even children today. They have not been able to grow out of it. The authority figure that teachers come in as, they don't let them resolve the disputes within themselves. So they think they know better. So that whole concept is not changing. We are still stuck in that whole mindset, and it just gets passed down generation to generation, that there is someone else who will tell you what to do. You don't know the best for yourself. So that's the decolonization that we need to do, because definitely dispute resolution doesn't have to happen in court. We all know that. And today it is not happening in courts in most countries, because people are not getting justice. Obviously, justice delayed, justice denied. So if you are spending 20 years in certain countries, well, look, Eliza, we always have to have the larger picture. So it's not even the US. Look, it might be relative. It might be that there is, you might take 2 years, where some might take 20 years. Hi, Rosalia. Hi,
Hi,
Hello.
Rosalia.
Rosalia. I'm so happy to see her. The Rosalia is a longtime friend now.
It's so nice to see you all. Sorry,
Yes, why have you been so busy, Rosalia?
I've just had one meeting after the next with work, and there's just a lot of going on my end. That's all.
But you do know that you are part of the Mahatma Gandhi and mediation. You know that discussion. You're part of that discussion on Mahatma Gandhi and mediation.
Yes,
That's coming
I
up
am.
on the yes.
I know. In case I get called into a meeting, then I'm going to have to exit.
My God, will you think Mahatma Gandhi will like that? Do you
No.
think he will?
She'll just say she's spinning. She's going to spin into, make some khadi fabric, right?
Lisa, can I share the screen? Can I share the screen?
Yes, you can share the screen.
But Rosalia, how is Khalid?
He's doing well. He's working hard, and we're probably going to have to do some conflict resolution. He's getting attacked by competitors. I mean, I don't know. It seems like what's playing out geopolitically seems to trickle down to day-to-day coming and go, day-to-day business practices. Unbelievable. It's just this world, I don't know what it's going to. Every day, he gets attacked even on his own website, and we have to,
I do want to encourage, I'm sorry, Rosalia, Gail or anyone, if you want to just type a question in chat for Vikram. I know he's paying attention to the chat. So, okay, go ahead. I think you can share the screen.
I can, but what Rosalia is saying is very serious. I mean, imagine what Khalid must be going through. You live in Canada. You live in Canada, and you don't expect all this to happen.
No, No, I don't know what's, I think there's a need globally. I mean, people need hope, or there's some need of civility, or I don't know what's going. I mean, just it's a reflection of what's happening, geopolitically. It's happening locally. I think there's a need worldwide, okay, like for a reset or something, civility, everything, just basic civil skill, politeness, and I don't know what's going on. I see people seem to be disillusioned. I don't know if it's the pandemic. People are on edge, but and I see it also in my day-to-day dealings at work. Like you have to really employ a lot of diplomatic skills. More, I've never seen such a need as I'm seeing now. Like there's chaos, and yeah, you wouldn't think that it would happen here in Canada, but it's happening everywhere. It's just
Of course, that's why what I've been trying to do, and this is what my focus now is, that we have to, for me, of course, identifying those with the mediator mindset. I am saying that, of course, if you in communities can do that, these will be those reasonable voices which will be available in the community, and then they have to be valued and taken forward. Then we might see some change in the way people even deal with each other. So those people and those voices have disappeared, and which is, of course, I think we have done it to ourselves. The politics has been about a certain kind of person, a certain kind of way to go about politics. So I think that has definitely, of course, affected the way the people we've got who are voices for communities who are really not the voices of communities, but they've been able to come out as the people who are going to represent. So I think we have to change that. So that is why I'm saying you might not be able to get into the politics and change it immediately, but within the communities, if the right people are highlighted and taken forward, then the whole atmosphere around them that they'll create, I think it will make some difference. So now my focus is on that, to tell people to identify, bring them forward. How we take them forward, let's see, because what I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to involve school teachers. That school
oh, that's
teachers will go
wonderful.
out, yeah, they'll go out into communities, they will go into schools, they will just one basic question: who are those people who help you resolve your dispute? To be answered by communities, by children, everyone. So let's bring out those people, their names, they're actual people who exist, they're already doing it, they're trusted. So if we can bring those people out, and I don't know, look, I think is that, of course, I can create a platform and create an online platform, but I'm saying, do we really need that also? If the community within themselves can resolve disputes within themselves, get these people out to on their own, value them on their own, do they really need a larger platform? Do they? But over time, yes, there should be a platform to showcase these people, not just anything else, just showcase these people. These are people on the ground who are doing all this work. They're actually helping people resolve disputes. What better can they do in life and for the community? So we'll showcase them. Yeah.
But I think as mediators, we need to lead by example. We really do need to lead by example.
Exactly.
And just acts of kindness. Basically, you respond with assertiveness, but kind at the same time. And I actually had I followed a training session on assertiveness at work a couple of weeks ago, and I found it was fantastic. The person that gave it was a psychologist, and he went into so much. He had done a lot. He's doing his PhD actually, and he did a lot of research. And we have to get back to basic principles of civility, politeness, things that our parents taught us, when we were growing up. I think we've lost that, and you see it not only in social media, you see it on TV, and that people will just say anything they for 1 minute of fame, and they'll what we speak, our language is very important. I think how we communicate, what comes out of our mouth.
But Rosalia, but the interesting thing is that the same things don't come out by the same people in front of everyone. They are different people with a certain set of people. Could be if they're sitting with some elders, say for a moment, let's say if they're sitting with elders in their family, they won't say the same thing, but they'll say these things outside with someone else. So why are they not saying it in front of those people? Is because there is respect. So that concept of respect, if you finish in a society over time, and if people, you don't even respect, say, elders, or within the family, that I mean, family structure changes, that reflects on the community, and that reflects on the country, that reflects on the world. So I put out that thing, my Diwali the celebration thing that I put out. It all starts with the soul. That's where it all starts. So it's all there. But I just feel that that's why if you have the right people out there in the communities, and if people can, okay, that respect part of it, we can't put into people. We can't say you respect someone. But if people can identify those people who have that kind of a conduct, how they conduct themselves as people, what they are, I think if they know that something like that can exist, an environment like that can exist, and someone is actually wanting a certain level of peace around them or want to create a nice atmosphere around them, they'll also maybe fall into that. But if on the other side, the politics that you have created is where you are going to whatever, abuse each other or fight each other, if that's the atmosphere you're creating, then everyone, when they're part of that, will do the same things. So you're not expecting them to change there. So I think we'd have to create that energy around those individuals that I'm saying, and that energy will transform into the families, into the communities, and then we ground upwards will work.
So Khadija has her hand up, so I want to give her a chance if she wants to jump in and ask a question.
Yes, Khadija. Khadija's hand is up, but Khadija is not there.
Yeah. Okay, I just want to make sure that I recognize, that her hand is up, and
so that's what I want. So
Rosalia,
it's not something that's going to happen in a day or two. It's a long-term thing. That's why the Vision 2026 to start with. Yeah, Khadija.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I apologize. My screen. I'm talking from my phone, but my chat was disabled. I just want to let you know that I have to leave. But please keep me aware of when meetings are going to happen, because I just love to listen more. Okay.
Thank you so much for coming, Khadija.
Okay, and God bless everybody. Bye-bye.
Yes, and you take care. Take care of yourself.
I
Okay,
have the
bye-bye.
same comment as her.
Nice not seeing you, Khadija. Nice not seeing you.
Gail,
Next
you were
time.
saying? Yes.
I have the same issue. I was in between Zoom calls and wanted to jump on.
Oh.
I need to get off, and I saw the chat was disabled. So have a blessed, wonderful weekend, and thanks for
Oh, I didn't mean to disable the chat, but thank you, Gail.
Okay.
Thank you
All
so
right,
much.
bye-bye.
Bye, Gail.
Bye, Gail.
So basically, it's finally Rosalia, Lisa, and me. It's back to us. Yeah.
Well, back to what, basically you're saying, we have to, you're mentioning about teachers that going out there, and that would be teaching the children, but we have to also equip the teachers with conflict resolution skills and like a toolbox. Okay, I know it's being done in a lot of communities, like at the elementary school level, and even at high school levels, there's like peer mediation and whatnot. But I think it has to become a more, how do you say, mainstream. And that's where mediators can come in, and you could go in. I'll give you an example. Here in the province where I live in Quebec, in Canada, there's an organization called Equijustice, which means equality, justice. Okay, and basically jurists, lawyers, they can go in. They're volunteers. You could go into high school and you could give a lecture on the civil rights and your rights, your obligations, to high school students. I'm actually on that list. I was supposed to go in, but with COVID, I wasn't able to deliver any presentations in person because of the COVID, whatever. And now they're starting that up again. And they have these slide presentations, which are very, very well researched by lawyers from the Bar Association on basic civil obligations, civil rights, like teaching high school students, like what your rights are and what your obligations are. Like basically you have rights, but your rights come with responsibility. That's the message, so by the same token, something similar can be done, at the community level, in all communities, in different communities, go into high schools, elementary schools, and, teach children basic
Actually,
skills.
Rosalia, what about, look, that's my way of going about it. I'm saying, let's for the moment stop teaching. Let's not
Okay.
teach, because teaching hasn't worked. It doesn't seem to have worked. And teaching is also something, who is teaching what? Because obviously there's an agenda. There are even governments have agendas, and you have to look at it globally. So I'm saying, for the moment, let's keep the teaching aside. All we're saying is there's some very basic aspect of people, the way they deal with each other. So all I'm saying is that let someone just ask that question. That's all. Who is that person you trust when you have a fight? In school, you use the word fight. In the community, you use the word dispute. Who is that person whom you trust to help you resolve your fight or your dispute? Nothing else. So they don't need any skill to ask that question. But because they're respected in the community, they will, when they ask that question, they will get better answers.
You're
They will
both
actually,
really
and
coming from two different schools of thought. So the one school of thought is, okay, people are born with a certain kind of
no,
mindset.
Lisa,
And the
Lisa, we're
other
coming
school
there.
of thought is that children can be, they're like blank slates and they can learn anything.
No, right now we haven't
I
reached
think
anywhere.
that both
Lisa,
sides are there.
we haven't reached there. I'm saying, that's why I'm saying, you're not waiting for the steps later. What I'm saying, if you first to start with, the people are already, who first to look, everything. If you talk about mediation, there has to be a mediator. Then you talk about mediation. So I'm just saying, first of all, let's find out who these children in school are, these people in the communities and families. We're just putting out, it's like a general question being put out. Let's just put it out. Let's get these people out. Let's put them together. Now, as we get them together and we have discussions, or they have discussions with themselves, or there are people who have experience in the field, when they can be part of those discussions, whether they learn or they teach. I'm not even saying that everyone has to be taught. Some people can teach also. Those same people you think you want to teach, they can teach you a lot more. But let's have conversations. I'm just saying, have conversations. Let's get these people into a whatever, into some kind of a platform or whatever way it's going to happen. So let's just do that. That's step one. So when you have these people out there, then you talk about mediation to the communities or schools or what. Because if you don't have mediators, what is the concept of promoting something? Because that's what's happening today. That promotion of mediation might have happened as peer mediation, but they call it, and they go out and talk about mediation. But the people who are going to be those mediators, step one has to start from there. So, well, let's get them together. Then as we go along, yeah.
Sometimes the children that started the fights make the best mediators. There was a poem, it's an old English poem, and I can't remember, wish I could remember who the poet was, but it was one really famous poet. And he wrote about two monks who were learning to be monks. And one monk, he did everything the way he was supposed to. He looked like just a natural monk. And the other monk, he would like, it would be like having a comic book open when he was reading his Bible passage, or he was always kind of finding ways around the rules and playing around a little bit. And at the end of the poem, the question is, who would be the better monk for the people? And most people would feel like the fellow with the comic book between the pages, he would make a better monk for the people than the guy who was always following all of the rules. So, I think it's not even easy to say or to identify in children sometimes who would be the better one, because sometimes the person who's made a little bit of trouble has a better understanding about how to resolve it.
But Lisa,
or how people feel.
this is where the decolonization comes, that we are not the people to tell them what to do. They have to within themselves understand that they have to resolve disputes and conflicts and fights, whatever word you want to use, within themselves. They're equipped to do it. Colonization comes when the government sits and says, we know how you should do it. That's what you are saying. That's the colonizer and the colonizer's
That's
government
not what I'm
saying
saying.
that.
I'm saying that the fellow who is not following the rules has a better understanding of conflict. He's the one, or she's the one, whichever, who, because who understands it from that perspective, from the
But
people
what
that
I'm
are
saying, this is
upset, they can understand someone. That's what I'm saying.
no, you
But
say,
then,
what I'm
but
trying
it
to
comes
say.
down to,
It doesn't, yeah, it's,
What now?
I agree with what you're saying, but you know what it all comes down to is willingness, the will of the, it
exactly.
comes down to the principle of willingness, the will of the parties, basically. So the person,
Exactly.
let's say that's starting the conflict, okay, you might have a better understanding, but he has to be willing, he or she has to be willing to go to step back and say, okay, I got into an argument or a fight with my friend, like a shoving match or whatever. uh, do I want to stay angry? Like, do I with this person, or do I want to, make amends? Because sometimes we always forget. We tend to forget that conflict is a catalyzer for change. It could actually be a good thing sometimes. Because you clear out the cobwebs, as I call it. All the frustrations comes out, and then
Exactly.
you start anew. Start with a clean slate.
That's why I was saying that basically for me it's that dispute resolution, conflict aspect of it, whether the conflict is good, whether it should be there, what all is that. Let that be discussed separately. But first thing, I'm talking about that dispute resolution aspect of it. So I'm just saying that there are people out there, they know what they want, they know whom they want it from. Why do we have to tell them whom they should have, how they should do it? It's them. But to tell them, you must do it. But now the problem is that because they can't get together to do it, that's why this peacemaker aspect that I want. I want there to be peacemakers to be identified at the same time, who are going to get them together.
The
Who
peacemaker,
that's
Vikram, if you think of it, okay, it starts at home.
yeah.
It starts really at home, okay? It starts with the value system, like how you are, how you're brought up, how your parents raise you also. That has a lot of influence also, okay? I mean, look at, for instance, take for example, a parent that sees two of his or her children fighting. What does the mother, what's the first instinct that a mother or a father have? Is to break up the fight. I don't want to see you fighting with your brother or your sister, and apologize to each other. That's the first thing they're the first peacemakers, the parents.
Well, I don't know, because I told my children, go resolve it yourselves. Go in the other room where I don't hear you and resolve it yourself.
Well, I mean, I grew up with 4 brothers, and I could tell you that my parents, when 4 brothers, okay, and I'm the only girl, so you could imagine, like the arguments. But 2 minutes later, everybody's fine. But I still remember my parents saying, I don't want to see my, you're supposed to be helping each other, not fighting each other. You're supposed to,
Yeah, that's what I
your
said. You're not
family,
supposed to
basically.
fight. You go talk about it and figure it out yourselves. If they used to get mad at me and say, why don't you tell us which one of us is right? I'm like, I'm not choosing the one. You guys
No, our
figure it
parents would
out.
not choose. My
Yeah.
parents would not choose. I could tell you for a fact, and that would frustrate us.
Exactly. They hated it. I'm like, no, we wanted you to choose. I'm like, I'm not choosing. You have to figure it out. That's what you teach your children, to figure it out.
But that's also the role of the peacemaker. That's exactly what the
Exactly.
mediator does. Okay, that's what we do in community mediation. That's exactly it. What we do is we try to open up the dialogue, but we're not going to resolve the argument for you.
Right.
You have to figure it out. We're going to ask you the questions. We're going to try to get you there. That's the role of the mediator, the trained mediator. We're going to try to get you there, but you have to do the work, and that's the hard part. The introspection,
That's it.
and admitting that, okay, well, maybe I wasn't correct in my actions here, or, you know, in my words or in my act, whatever I said or what I did, you know, and that's the hard part, even if you don't want to admit it vocally, you know, but you know down deep that, you know, you also had a part in that.
I
In
mean,
that
it's funny because Vikram, you're always saying, you know, colonization, yet I come from a practice where in the transformative process, you just give it to the parties. You don't even tell them what to do. So it's like, that's where it is, which is, I'm really excited because it's used a lot now for a lot of peacemaking. They prefer that model or that, sorry, I don't want to use the word model in front of Vikram. Shh, don't tell him I use the word.
No, look, I'm telling you this. If you look at it from your you look at it the way you even think about mediation, the first thing comes to your mind is that we need to tell them how to do it. And who is going to do it. Also, in some way, we want to have some kind of maybe a view on, maybe not a control of. For a moment, just forget all that. Just let it be. Okay, everyone likes it in the way they think it has to be done. But think of it from an individual's perspective and their personal, it's that very personal dispute. It's their dispute. To even tell them that you are going to tell them whom they should trust to resolve the dispute, I think it's a colonizer's mindset that we know best for you. So for a moment, let's give them that whole feeling that they know what is best for them and they will work it out within themselves and who they will involve. So just give them that atmosphere. Problem is we're not even being able to create that atmosphere because someone sitting there says, we know how you should do it. We are going to tell you how to do it. So how are you changing that whole concept in their mind? You're still telling them what to do, be it mediation. The
I
point
don't
is,
see that at all. I don't see that at all. And I mean, the other part of that, in my experience, we also, you know, observe what works more long-term than what, I mean, just, you know, the more experienced you are, the more you know what's going to work long-term. And I know people can resolve a conflict like that, but the resolution breaks down within a few weeks because they used a method that, yes, I can get people to agree, great, conflict over, but it doesn't last long because the emotions were not addressed. A lot of the underlying things that were happening were not addressed. And so then is that, you know, okay, that's great for short term, but what do you do about long term in the relationship?
You're proving my point. But you're proving my point, Lisa, because the right people were not doing it. And these people that you're talking about who are doing it have gone through whatever that training and everything that you're saying, they've gone through everything. At the end of the day, what is coming out of it is not something that you also might find acceptable. But for a moment, I'm just saying for a moment, let people be it schools, school children, be it in families, be it in communities, let for a moment, just let them within themselves understand that first they should resolve their disputes within themselves. It is good for you. That is first thing, let them realize. But we don't let them realize that because we've given them this option out there, and there are people to take you to that option who are sitting there as vultures that, oh, dispute, come to us, we'll take you to this place which is called a court, whatever. Of course, it's the worst. Okay, let's just say court. We don't want to use anything more than that. So we'll take you there. So all that system has already developed there. That the
Vikram, I can dispute that. I can dispute that. I have a perfect example from last week. Okay, because okay, and this was in the community mediation program that I'm involved in. Okay, we had a potential case. Okay, as a community mediators, we had a potential case that, you know, we started with the first person, the person that contacted the organization or the organization, whatever, to resolve a dispute between, it was neighbors, okay? Neighbors that have been fighting for years, that have gone to court, and they have settlement agreements drafted by courts, okay? By the court. And now, you know, and he approached one of them approached our organization to ask us to mediate between the two neighbors because he wanted the other neighbor, his neighbor, to respect the settlement agreement right off the bat. Okay, so right off the bat, like in 2 seconds, I already knew. Forget it. There's no mediation here. Okay, it's not happening. You can't even talk to each other because the guy came out with a baseball bat. It's really bad. It took me. I was like, I had to hold back. I swear to God, I was sitting there and I'm like, I really had to keep a straight face because I'm listening to the, and so the question is, our role is create a safe space, make them, and I was explaining this. My role here as a community mediator is to create a safe space to help you dialogue. But honestly speaking, do you think that if you guys are sending each other, in French, they're called mise en demeure, demand letters, okay, through the legal system, through your lawyers, do you honestly think, like you've already gone too far, you've already gone to a point of no return, now you want us to come back, to push back and have you guys stop when the guy's coming out with a baseball bat because you just sent them a mise en demeure, So that was a question that I asked. That was a big question. So you see the bubble, over his head. I could see him thinking, the whole meeting lasted 15 minutes. We already knew, so.
Yep.
No,
But I'll tell you,
there are.
listen,
I agree with you. There are vultures out there because they're trying to make money out of mediation. They're
exactly.
professionals, which is normal. They're trying to make a living. Okay, so they're
That's
offering
normal.
mediation services. Okay,
Yeah,
so they're saying,
exactly.
come to us. We're gonna resolve your dispute. But just that by saying, come to us, we are going to resolve your dispute. That's not what a mediator is supposed to do. You're supposed to be creating that safe space, and they're supposed to resolving the dispute.
Yes.
We have to go back
Parties, the
to
more the parties can resolve the
parties.
dispute
We have to go back
themselves,
to
the better
exactly.
it is and the more long
Imagine both
lasting.
of you agreeing with me exactly what I'm saying. You're saying the
Oh,
same thing, and then you're saying we don't agree with you.
What
Okay.
we have to do is go
But
back to the we have to go back to the basics.
no,
We keep
no, I get it.
forgetting the basic principles.
But Lisa, I think
But maybe we don't agree that we don't agree because you're
no, but I'm
saying we
saying
don't agree. So we don't agree that we don't
no,
agree.
I'm saying the basics. I think maybe we go wrong in terms of the basics. For first thing, Rosalia wasn't there when I was talking about it. This whole concept of traditional mediation and these people who are being part of society, communities who have been there, who were telling people what to do is what people say. That's their feedback on these people, and that's why they wanted them not to be involved in mediation. But what I was saying was that there are some things which are told to people as suggestions and they accept that because of social pressure. So what you're saying in terms of communities, first we have to create communities. First of all, we call it, you want to call it community mediation and you want to call it a community, but there are certain basics that are required in a community, and social pressure is a very important aspect of being part of a community. So is there any social pressure to start with? So are we really saying that you are a community? It's not just because you are staying in the same residential area, you become a community. No, that's just a residential space. Being a community, there are first certain basics there. So to go back to the basics, you
It
have to go
depends
back to what a
on,
community has to be. And for me, community means there is some social pressure for you. And that social pressure means that, like you said, you don't come out with a baseball bat onto the road and you want to bang the guy's head. That social pressure will not let you do that. So that aspect has gone away from communities. So let's build that on one end. Let's build that. Okay, that's a good thing we should do. We should have to create that environment. So when you said safe space, that safe space also means that there is a certain social pressure because of which you feel safe.
no,
That you
but
know
it's also
because
the relational view because I have a relational view of conflict that is really about the relationship. And that is the social pressure because I think that socially we all want to get along. That's it. Basically, we all want to get along. And if you look at it like, okay, a conflict is really about the breakdown of the relationship and address and helping the parties then figure that out that, oh yeah, if we get along, we can do a lot more, that when they figure that out and when they open up and they're able to listen to one another, they'll resolve their dispute themselves.
That's right. But we have to admit that there are cases that they've gone far beyond mediation. And, that you can't, so the court systems are already involved. And I mean, they have no choice. They have to go before a judge
No.
because they're not listening. They're not
It's true.
listening.
One of the things though, and this is really interesting that we have observed and in following up when we call people several weeks later, there are a lot of people when they go through the process and they're really, feel like they're heard. Sometimes they cannot resolve the conflict and they walk out. But a lot of times, even before the court date, they come together and they talk and they resolve it before the court date itself. So there's a value in mediation it's not there that it gets resolved. Sometimes the value is just that moment where they were hearing each other and they go back and they think about it later. They do come together. And we found that many, many times. People who walked out and said, there's no way we can resolve our dispute, will think about it and come together later and resolve it on their own. I'm like, wow, isn't that, I mean, that's awesome. I think that's an awesome fact.
Yep. Vikram, you're quiet.
He is quiet, but
I think with me is I get distracted when I look at whatever's happening on Facebook and I just finished.
You're
I
not
just finished.
supposed to do that.
You know what?
I just finished one
it's
show.
funny,
I
you want to talk
was
about
looking at that.
distraction? You know what? This morning I was listening to the Security Council meeting on the whole situation with the Ukraine. There was a Security Council meeting that just happened. It just ended. Okay.
Mhm.
Perfect example. Okay. Because I've been thinking, how come they're not using the UN good offices of the UN, to mediate? And this, that. So I've been listening. What I've been doing is whenever there's a Security Council meeting, which is public that you can log into, I go in and because I've been observing. Okay, so I'm listening to the way they're speaking, the delegates, the ambassadors, the representatives of the member states, the Security Council table, and the language. Let me tell you, I've never heard such direct language. It's like, forget about diplomacy; it's out the window. The hostility in the language, like, I mean, oh no, it's so direct. It's so directive. I mean, everybody's saying, because there's accusations of weapons of mass destruction and whatnot, and from certain member states, from one member state accusing another member state of having weapons of mass destruction and whatnot, and it's against international law. So I'm listening to this, and I heard the Security Council members around the table this morning, refuting that, like there's no justification, but just listening to the language, okay? And I'm like, okay, this is why they're not using the good offices. They're not listening to each other. They're not there yet. They're not at that point, where, okay, let's sit down, because let's call a ceasefire. Let's sit down and let's discuss this civilly. Okay, they're not there yet. They're pointing fingers right now. Okay, they're at that stage. So I'm watching all this, and people are saying, oh, the UN has failed. The Secretary General hasn't been using his good office. How could he? It's a voluntary process. If the parties don't want to go there, he's been asking them. He's been begging them. He's been begging for them to use his good offices. Okay, but the mediators, they're stalled. They can't. They can't force themselves on the parties. They just can't.
I think that's an aspect of mediation that everybody needs to recognize, and a lot of people don't. And that is that unless the parties are willing, because you can't just go and impose. You can't, have a secret thing. The parties have to be willing to work it out in any conflict. And unless they're there, it's not going to work. And,
that's right.
And no matter what, I mean, something else has to be done. That's why, sometimes we just don't have any choice sometimes.
Well, you're watching all this being playing itself out. Okay. At the same time, I can't watch the news anymore. I mean, for me, what's so disturbing is the civilians that are the innocent people that are, victims, they're being killed, like, basically. And, somebody, oh, that's warfare, they're collateral damage. Well, these are human beings. You know, these are innocent people, mothers, children, civilians, you know, and there's humanitarian law that's just not being respected. You name it. Okay. It's all there. Wow. Like we're watching this live, you know, we're seeing this, and I'm sitting, you know, we're here in our comfortable environments and I feel guilty. It's like, what could I do? You know, how could you help these people? You know, okay, people saying you could give donations, but their lives are still being, you know, the ones that are there on the ground, they're still, their lives are being lost. Okay. Yes, there are refugees, which you need to help, you know, the humanitarian aid, but
No, there are a lot of people mixed up, and I'm talking to somebody right now in Ukraine. So it's a very tough situation. So I'm not going to talk about that, but yeah.
but this is, I mean, what I'm saying is, it's just an example of the, you know, the whole concept of the willingness of the party. The parties have to be willing. It comes back to that.
No, but
They have
Rosalia,
to
the thing
sit
is,
down.
They have to be.
no, I'll tell you what,
They have to get to that point. They're not there yet.
the one
for some
missing
reason.
link, one
Now, I'm
missing
going
link
to
that
give you the
maybe is-
3-minute warning, because in 3 minutes, I'm going to shut down I'm going to hour and a
Yeah,
half. So
we'll keep, not a problem. But what I'm saying is that the missing link for me is those peacemakers, which I call peacemakers, are those people who are going to talk about resolving the dispute, how they can do it, why they should do it. That person has a role. The person is not a mediator. There is some kind of, I mean, feeling that the mediator is the one who's going to do that. No, that's another individual, to be able to explain to them in whatever way they do. They have their way, and they will bring them together, and they will bring the mediator together, and then mediation can happen. So that's why I'm working on both ways. So it's not just, first of all, for the peacemaker to create that environment. Definitely you need those people with the mediator mindset. So I'm saying, identify those people, identify those who can bring people together, and then work together, and then we will see changes at the grassroots level. I'm not even saying what today we're talking about Ukraine, Russia and all. Everything reflects our society. That's the way that's the society we've created for ourselves. So let's start at the grassroots. Takes 5, 10 years, 20 years, whether those weapons of mass destruction have been used or not used. By then we'll see. If we are still living on this planet, maybe we'll make some change. But
living on this planet is the thing. I think sometimes the groundwork has to be done, you know, the individual work, and with individuals first, or with parties first, before they're ready to come to the table. So some work has to be done. You know, I don't know what that is in terms of this huge dispute right here, but definitely
No, but
something is changing their story, because it's the stories that create more conflict. Like, what is the narrative that they are under conflict in? And what is the narrative that they're attached to? And how do we change that narrative so that it's not one of pointing fingers, but it's one that's more collaborative? And that has to be done too. So I think it's a lot more complex. It's not so simple.
Yeah, that's you have to create that environment. Yeah, you create the environment, you have the right people out there. So yeah, Rosalia.
But to create the environment, you need also influential religious leaders to help a lot, like, you know, to create that environment. You know, I mean, you've been hearing from the Catholic Church, the Pope has been, making statements, you know, like pray for peace, you know, also members of other religious orders, you know, like pray for peace, a unification at that end, because that trickles down to society, that people listen, you know, through their religious beliefs. It does trickle down, and it opens up the person's heart, like, you know, because it always comes back to that, the willingness of the parties. But to do that, you have to break through. And it's at some level fundamental principles. It's at the core.
I'm going from the bottom upwards. I'm just saying that the fact that we have created a certain society for ourselves, and one of the important aspects is the money. The way money has been created as an important aspect of society, we will face all these issues, because finally that little greed which starts in one small part of someone's house reaches a point where the arms industry has such a big industry that do countries really have a choice? Are they really making the decisions themselves? We don't even know that. So who are those? Even when you talk about mediation, who are the parties? I mean, are these really the people who are going to? You have to have, you say, decision maker there. Are these decision makers? Even the president of a country is a decision maker or not? We don't even know that. So there's so much else which is happening around it. And Lisa has put a timeline to our discussion, which is quite sad, Lisa. How can you do that? How can you put a timeline to our discussion?
I am for the live stream. We can keep discussing without the live stream.
We only
I want
do
to
everything for the
live.
live stream. We don't do anything else. We don't need to for the
No.
live stream.
I want to tell everybody, thank you for listening to our conversation. And I'm going to end our live stream. Say goodbye to everybody.
My God, I good you said end our live stream, not end our life or something like that.
No, I'm not ending your life, just your live stream. Say
Our
goodbye.
live stream is our life. How do you know that's not our life?
Well, thank you for,
Goodbye.
thank
Bye,
you for
Lisa.
creating this
Thank you very much,
platform.
Lisa,
Don't
for doing
leave,
this, to
right?
starting
Don't
this.
leave. I'm just
This
going
is
to stop the recording. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.